Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Chief Guest, respected Chair of the session, respected Chairman of BIISS, respected Director General of BIISS, learned speakers, esteemed authors, distinguished participants, and my dear colleagues. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to you all. On behalf of Bangladesh Institute of International and Strategic Studies, BIISS, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to today's book launching seminar on Look Africa, Exploring New Horizons for Bangladesh. At today's program, we're very much honored to have amongst us Mr. Mohammad Tawhid Hussain, Honorable Foreign Advisor, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, as Chief Guest. Distinguished guests, today's seminar is divided into two phases. The first half will include presentation of the book and the book launching. The second phase will include panel discussion session. Today's discussion will start with the introductory remark by the Director General of BIISS, Major General Iftikhar Anes, BSP. Thereafter, Dr. Razia Sultana, Senior Research Fellow at BIISS, will present an overview on the book, Look Africa, Exploring New Horizons for Bangladesh. Next, we will have a presentation on Africa-Bangladesh relations and overview by Mr. AFM Jahidul Islam, former Director General, Africa Wing, and current Director General, North America Wing of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh. Following these presentations, our distinguished panelist, Dr. Munshi Sulaiman, Professor and Research Director, BRAC Institute of Governance and Development, BIGD, and Dr. Marufa Akhtar, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Global Studies and Governance, School of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences, Independent University of Bangladesh, IUB, will share their valuable insights on the book. This will be followed by a book launching event. After the book launch, we'll have a panel discussion session with the authors who have contributed to the book. In this session, the distinguished participants will have a chance to interact with the authors and share their thoughts. Following the panel discussion of session, the Honorable Chief Guest will deliver his invaluable speech. Finally, today's chair of the session, Ambassador Humayun Kabir, President, Bangladesh Enterprise Institute, BEI, will sum up the session. Now, I'm requesting the chair of the session to kindly commence the program. Thank you.
Honorable Advisor for Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Mohammad Tawhid Hussain, Chairman of BIS, Ambassador AFM Gausul Azam Sarkar, General Iftikhar Anis, Director General BIS, Dr. Razia Sultana, the editor of the volume that we are going to launch today, AFM Jahidul Islam, Director General, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Munshi Sulaiman, Professor and Research Director, BRAC Institute of Governance and Development, Dr. Marufa Akhtar, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Global Studies and Governance, ambassadors, scholars, teachers, media friends, ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome all of you to the book launching and seminar today at Bangladesh Institute of International and Strategic Studies. This is an important day for me for the fact that we are now really taking it seriously to explore, or I would say seriously explore, a continent. And we know Africa. We have our missions in Africa. But I think scholars, ambassadors, and others have contributed to this volume. And I would say this is one of the few systematic efforts undertaken to understand what Africa is, what opportunities Africa offers for Bangladesh, and how we can build up our relationship. On my personal level, I can only tell you that I had the opportunity to work or know my friends from Africa. And I have one feeling is that Africa is one. It's like, although 54 countries, but when we talk about Africa, Africa has one identity, Africa. So that's a very important element to remember. And I think this book which is going to be launched soon, actually captures different facets of our relationship with Africa, and at the same time also brings out what the potential Africa has for Bangladesh and how we can chart a common future for our co-development or for our mutual benefit in development in the future. So I would like to first thank Bangladesh Institute of International and Strategic Studies for undertaking this initiative. And I would say this is a great contribution they are making to the knowledge generation, and at the same time improving our understanding about, I would say, a new continent which could hold the future for relationship between Bangladesh and the African countries. So we have roughly around 2 hours time in front of us, and let me also, before I go to the further in the discussion, thank our advisor for foreign affairs, Ambassador Tauhid Hossain, for taking time out. And I should also mention that we are having the chairman of BIS here today. Let us all wish him good health. And we are very happy that he's here. And today he will be participating. And by the way, he has also contributed a piece here. So as has been mentioned already, we'll have a discussion at the beginning, and then perhaps book launch. And the third segment would be the contributors, those who have contributed to this volume. They will say if they have anything to say on this or add anything more to that. So with this introduction, let me start the proceedings. And I would like to invite Major General Iftekhar Anis, Director General of BIS. He has two hats today. One hat is that he is the Director General of BIS, and also he's a contributor to this volume. So you have the floor, General.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today's chief guest, Muhammad Tauhid Hossain, Honorable Advisor for Foreign Affairs, Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh. Today's chair of this session, Ambassador Humayun Kabir, President, Bangladesh Enterprise Institute, Chairman BIISS, senior officials of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, learned discussants and authors, distinguished guests, and our friends from Africa. We have here today our few of our African colleagues here in this forum as well. So that will enlighten this session more. Assalamu alaikum and good morning. On behalf of Bangladesh Institute of International and Strategic Studies, I welcome you to today's book launching seminar on Look Africa, Exploring New Horizons for Bangladesh. Our heartfelt gratitude goes to the chief guest for gracing the occasion with his presence. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to be present at the launch of a timely and insightful publication that delves into the untapped potential of Bangladesh's relation with African countries. Despite the growing importance of South Sudan, cooperation in the contemporary geopolitical and economic landscape, the engagement between Bangladesh and Africa remains a relatively unexplored area in academic and policy discourse. This publication is the culmination of a seminar organized by BIISS to explore opportunities for strengthening cooperation between Bangladesh and African countries. It reflects the Institute's dedication to translating discussions from various seminars and roundtables into meaningful contributions to policy and academic discourse. The book is a result of rigorous research and thoughtful deliberation aimed at providing the readers with a deeper understanding of how Bangladesh can effectively expand its outreach to Africa for mutual benefit. Distinguished audience, as the chief editor of this book, I would like to take this opportunity to explain the rationale behind this publication of this book and highlight the key themes it addresses. Firstly, expanding foreign policy options is essential for any country seeking to safeguard its national interests. Bangladesh is no exception. The country is now looking beyond the established spheres of influence to broaden its global engagement. Africa, with its growing economies and untapped potential, presents a promising avenue for Bangladesh to foster mutually beneficial partnerships. Secondly, with the LDC graduation knocking at the door, Bangladesh stands to lose trade benefits associated with its LDC status. In this context, Africa presents a viable alternative market that Bangladesh must explore to sustain its economic momentum. Thirdly, strengthening diplomatic ties with African countries is more crucial than ever. A key priority will be expanding Bangladesh's diplomatic presence and identifying new export destinations, particularly in less explored markets. Lastly, the combined effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war have disrupted global trade, shrinking existing opportunities, and in some cases, introducing stricter trade conditions. In this uncertain landscape, Africa's emerging economies offer a crucial alternative for Bangladesh's trade and investment ambitions. Learned guests, the publication of this book has brought together a diverse group of academics, seasoned practitioners, and emerging researchers, each contributing valuable perspectives on Bangladesh Africa relations. Collectively, they have authored 13 insightful chapters covering a wide range of critical issues. This book explores key areas such as diplomatic engagements, socio-cultural exchanges, and economic cooperation, providing an in-depth analysis of how these ties can be strengthened. It also delves into trade and investment opportunities, highlighting the potential for economic growth and business collaborations between the two regions. Additionally, the role of information and communication technology in fostering digital connectivity is examined, along with discussions on the localization of the Sustainable Development Goals to ensure inclusive and sustainable development. Beyond economic and diplomatic dimensions, the book addresses topics like human migration, emphasizing the movement of labor and skills between Bangladesh and Africa. The potential for agricultural cooperation is also explored, recognizing the opportunities for knowledge sharing, technology transfer, and food security initiatives. Given the shared vulnerabilities to climate change, the book sheds light on the need of joint strategies in climate adaptation and resilience building. Furthermore, the book highlights the role of defense diplomacy and peacekeeping areas where Bangladesh has already made a significant mark on the global stage. By examining Bangladesh's contribution to UN peacekeeping missions in Africa and the scope for further defense cooperation, it underscores the potential for deeper engagement in stabilization efforts. Learned audience, I warmly invite all of you to explore the book and delve into its diverse range of topics. I hope the readers will find it not only informative, but also thought-provoking, inspiring further research and policy discussions. In conclusions, I would like to take this moment to express my heartfelt appreciation to my fellow editorial board members. I would also like to extend my sincere gratitude to the honorable chief guest, distinguished panelists, and esteemed participants for their presence and support. I look forward to an engaging discussion ahead. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, General Iftekhar Anis. You have laid out the scope that has been covered in this book, and I think if I may add to what you have said, Africa has collectively around or more than $3 trillion economic, and that is close to Indian economic size and also close to the ASEAN's collective economic size. So Africa has a huge potential, and I can also tell you from my personal experience with some of the African friends, the Africa is moving forward dynamically. They are particularly their ICT is moving fast, and African economy is growing also. Some of the fastest growing countries in the world are from Africa. So that is what the potential Africa holds for the world. And I think Bangladesh, with some record of involvement with African life, our participation, our relationship, that can create further avenues for our strengthening our relationship with Africa. So I think during the next few 1.5 hours, we'll be continuing to listen to various aspects of that. And here at this point, let me invite Dr. Razia Sultana, Senior Research Fellow at BIS, and she's the editor of the book. So she will perhaps give us slightly more insight into the details of the book. Dr. Razia Sultana.
Thank you, respected chair of this session, honorable foreign advisor, sir, respected DG and chairman, sir, from BISS, personals from MOFA, distinguished authors, our guests and friends from Africa, and dear audience present here. Assalamu alaikum, and a very good day to all of you. It's truly a meaningful and wonderful opportunity for me to connect with all of you today, share my enthusiasm, and offer a deeper insight into this book. In the limited time that I have, I will try to give you an overview of the book that to set the tone of the discussion. Now, let me give some genesis of the book. The journey of this book is not, it's pretty long. Initially, we found that there are less scholarly works on Africa in particular. Before we start the journey of this book, we organized a seminar back in 2022 to get a comprehensive idea. So it can be said this book is the culmination of the seminar organized, back in 1.5 years ago. Now, the themes and primary ideas of the book have gained impetus while we consider the evolving global situation. It goes without saying that the contemporary global politics now is in great transition, and we have witnessed that. So I feel like that it is essential to see the world from a different lens. The global landscape appears more conflictual rather than peaceful, and more volatile rather than stable. So the increasing number of middle powers, the reappearance of Cold War-like situation through Russia-Ukraine war, the dwindling situation of the global economy due to the COVID-19, and the strong presence of the non-state actors, including Africa, have brought a profound impact on the bilateral and the multilateral relationships. Most importantly, I wanted to share that the comeback of the US President Donald Trump for the second term was unprecedented, and the sudden funding cut of the US aid would disrupt the nature of international development cooperation and the reshape of the global trade architecture. So, ladies and gentlemen, for Bangladesh, working on this book has been more meaningful after the July uprising, since we are in the process of remolding and rebuilding the country. The July uprising, which was explosive and revolutionary in nature, has brought a new momentum of our foreign policy posture. Currently, we believe that in international relations, there is no permanent friend or foe, or only the permanent is the national interest, which is commonly attributed by Lord Palmerston long back in the 19th century. This statement reflects the idea that Bangladesh's foreign policies are not fixed with particular alliances or enemies. Rather than the foreign policy is being evolving based on the national interest, which can change over time. So as we navigate the transformative period, a question recurrently comes that how Bangladesh should navigate its foreign policy when its currently facing the challenges and impediments. Indeed, I believe that it is high time to cultivate bilateral relations, to look forward and find out the alternative options. In that case, Africa can be an alternative or viable option for us. Now, in this evolving dynamism, without cooperation or collaboration, no country can go far, because Africa is a continent of 54 countries with huge number of people, and it's endowed with ample of natural resources and very rich in cultural tradition. So I think Africa, it has a strategic importance in global geopolitics, particularly Bangladesh as well, with its growing influence shaping international agenda on issues such as climate change, sustainable development, peace, and security. So by strengthening ties with the African countries, Bangladesh can amplify its voice on the global scale, advance national interest, and contribute to the resolution of pressing global challenges. So the key argument of this book has been said that without the engagement with countries in Africa, this option can be an effective strategy for Bangladesh to open more avenues to adapt with the changing situation. Now, I want to share some of a bit of uniqueness of the book. I said that there are less scholarly work on Africa, so we tried to compartmentalize the book based on the themes and sub-themes. For instance, the book basically cover up the socio-cultural economic landscape. Also, there are some common grounds of cooperation that we can opt for, like climate change, trade. Also, since we have historical connection, the colonial history and post-independence struggle, we are very much prone to share our common challenges and for the sake of peace and prosperity at the international as well as the national platform. Now, the chapters of the book comprises 13 chapters. The foreword and preface, these two are written, the foreword is written by our Honorable Foreign Advisor. Thank you, sir, for giving us time. We are honored. The preface, this has been written by former DG Africa wing, currently Zahid sir. He is the DG of the North America wing. Thank you, sir, for giving us our endless support until the end of this book. The chapter 1, DG sir already introduced to you. He has set the tone by summing up all the chapters. This chapter 2, this chapter has been written Ambassador Mashfi Binte Shams madam. She is right now here. She's gonna tell, will briefly tell us about the diplomatic ties with the African countries and the uncapped areas for further collaboration. The third chapter is covered by Dr. Niloy Ranjan Bishwas and Himal Rahman. They try to unpack the socio-cultural cooperation between these two partners. Chapter 4 and chapter 5, these are basically written based on the trade and investment opportunities between Bangladesh and Africa. Dr. Mashuri has tried to unpack the different areas of trade and investment in the future based on some kind of visions and targets. For instance, we are going to graduate by 2026. So probably after 2026, we have some kind of barrier in terms of trade and investment. So he has tried to uncover all these areas. Chapter 5, this has written by Shams Mahmood. He tried to explore the trade and business opportunities from the investor's perspective. Chapter 6 is covered by Dr. Nahian Raja Sabriat and MD Nahian Shajid Khan. And they try to explore the digital market opportunities in Africa, especially this era is the era which is called the fourth industrial revolution. And they try to bring out some kind of areas that how Bangladesh can connect with the African countries. Chapter 7, this is a very interesting chapter, I must say, It has been covered by Mr. Rafid Abramia and Dr. Kazi Maruful Islam. And this basically SDG is a common area to explore. They try to bring out the approaches, methods, and the some kind of key area which can be a lesson learned for both the parties. So it's a I mean win-win and mutual learning situation. Chapter 8, this is basically covered from the Bangladesh Africa migration perspective. And Dr. Sayyida Rozana Rashid has covered up this, and she tried to explore the potential of the contract farming, in particular in African countries. Chapter 9, our chairman sir has covered up, and he tries to look at the more areas of engagement in Africa, especially based on the agricultural sector and other natural resources. Chapter 10, Dr. Sufia Khanam, she has written that, and she tried to explore the common areas of climate change so that Bangladesh and African countries can go together in hand to address the climate change issue for further resilience, because this is a very common area and both Bangladesh and African countries are very much prone to climate change. Chapter 11, this is covered by Brigadier Shamim Kamal sir, and he tried to unlock the opportunities, particularly in South Sudan. And chapter 12 is covered by Dr. MD Tawhidul Islam and Rabia Akhtar Shathi. They try to bring out all the peacekeeping issues, because Bangladesh is one of the forerunners of the peacekeeping in Africa, and Bangladesh has brought fame for the last couple of years. The last chapter, this has been covered, Dr. Delwar Hossain sir, and he tried to sum up this chapter and also tried to find out the more areas of collaboration between Bangladesh and Africa. So having said in this brief, I found the major strength of the book is it's basically a symbol of South cooperation, because Bangladesh, African countries are very much aligned with the developing countries, and there are a lot of areas which can be explored all together. And by expanding its hand of friendship to Africa, Bangladesh can express its solidarity and aspiration with the African nations for the sake of economic development, social progress, and the political stability. So I found that we try to be, to try to make this book a bit comprehensive. That's why we have covered the academician, practitioners, diplomats, policymakers to get an comprehensive overview. So, I'm going to almost end. So before I end, I would like to recognize some of their contributions, especially MOFA for their endless support. I humbly, owe to the authors, especially without their contribution, perhaps we couldn't have seen this day today. And I have to go through them back to back, and they always support me. And I want to cherish this day. It's really make my day. And special thanks should go to the editorial board. And without their support, perhaps the book could not have been surfaced today. So lastly, I want to say that this book from today is available at our bookstall in the book fair. So I will request each and everyone to go through this book and give your feedback and insight so that we can go forward. I believe this is not the end. It is just the beginning. We'll, based on your insight and feedback and reflections, we'll go more and more for the sake of development and prosperity of our country. Having said so, thank you so much for your patience hearing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Razia Sultana. You can cherish the day. Really, you have done an excellent work, and I think it is a great contribution to the body of knowledge on Africa and what we could do together. 3 points I will just mention, what she has mentioned. When we were young, in the 60s and 70s, we used to hear a lot about the Afro-Asian Latin American solidarity. In the middle, we have lost that. Now it's good that we are again thinking in terms of Afro-Asian and Latin American solidarity that's coming back, and that's good for countries like us because many countries in Africa had to do a huge or a great deal of struggle for their independence, as we did for ours, and we are still struggling to overcome the poverty and face the challenges of development. So we have a lot of commonalities on which we can build up. And here comes the issue of South-South cooperation. We also used to hear it up until a few years back, but I think now there is a renewed urgency to look at what we could do because so far the cooperation between the developed and developing countries, we took it as granted, but now it looks like that things could go wrong and we have to now explore or re-explore the potential that we have and whatever best we have to share with each other, and perhaps Africa and Bangladesh can now explore anew about the potential of collaboration that has and whatever good things, good practices we can share with each other. So in order to facilitate that, I think this book is a, I would say, model. It has given us some food for thought, very well researched, I should say. When I was going through the book, I was really impressed by the kind of research efforts and intellectual inputs that have gone into this book. And I should also take this opportunity to thank BIS once again and all the contributors and others, those who have contributed for bringing this wonderful volume out. Now, can I now invite DG America, who was the DG Africa, and he has also written a foreword here, Mr. AFM Zahirul Islam, to share his thoughts on this journey. Zahid is the Director General at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, now Director General for America.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Foreign Advisor, His Excellency Ambassador M.D. Tawhid Hussain, Distinguished Chair, Ambassador Humayun Kabir, respected Chairman of BISS, Director General BISS, Dr. Rajia Sultan, the editor of this publication, of this very book, esteemed discussants, authors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and member of the media. A very good morning to all you all. I am honored to be here at this significant event to share the evolution of Bangladesh-Africa relations and to highlight the vast opportunities that lie ahead. Our journey with African nation began in the early 1970s. Shortly after our independence in 1971, many African countries recognized our sovereignty, an acknowledgement that, along with our inclusion in the non-aligned movement and the Organization of Islamic Conference, laid the foundation for enduring bonds. In those early days, as Bangladesh stood in solidarity with Africa's struggles against colonialism and racism, our shared commitment to freedom and justice laid the foundation for long-lasting friendship and partnership. High-level engagement soon followed. In 70s and 80s, early visit to Egypt and Algeria, along with the opening of embassies in key African capitals, expanded our diplomatic relations. Notably, our pioneering initiative of sending Bangladeshi teachers, doctors, and engineers to Libya demonstrated our commitment to mutual development. Today, we maintain missions in 9 African countries, with our mission in Sudan temporarily suspended due to political unrest. Our diplomatic ties continue to remain strong. Additionally, Egypt, Libya, Algeria, and Morocco maintain resident embassies in Dhaka, representing friendly bilateral connections. In the 80s, our cooperation deepened with the African nation in the realm of the peace and security. The deployment of observers to Namibia in 1989 marked the beginning of our proud peacekeeping legacy in Africa, a legacy that continues today as our Blue Helmet forces serve in DR Congo and some parts of Africa. This commitment has earned Bangladesh a reputation for professionalism and dedication on the international stage. Ladies and gentlemen, despite these strong early political and security foundations, the economic potentials of our partnership have yet to be fully realized. Over the past 2 decades, however, we have reinvigorated our Africa policy with a focus on economic engagement. Back in 2012, an interministerial fact-finding mission led by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs visited around 6 and 7 countries to explore trade and business opportunities, reaffirming our commitment to this vital partnership. One promising initiative that emerged from that visit was contract farming. Africa's vast land resources hold great promise for agricultural development, while Bangladesh, though land scarce, has proven its efficiency in feeding 160 million people. While policy challenges, such as the lack of mechanism for overseas investments, land leasing, and streamlined money transfers, which has hindered the expansion of this initiative, a number of Bangladeshi entrepreneurs have already taken the bold step of venturing into farming in countries like Sudan, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. To further deepen our ties, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has signed several memorandum of understandings with nations including Morocco, Ethiopia, Egypt, South Africa, Algeria, and Kenya to facilitate regular, structured bilateral engagements. Recent consultations in Algiers and Cairo identified energy collaboration as a key area for further cooperation. Building on these efforts, our Focus Africa reiterates our commitment to economic collaboration, targeted social initiatives, and continued peace and security engagement. While Africa's GDP projected to reach around 29 trillion US dollar by 2050, it is clear that the continent represents a dynamic market. Yet, challenges such as absence of free trade agreements and high tariffs limit our current trade relationship. To fully unlock Africa's potential, Bangladesh must prioritize the negotiation of trade agreements that not only expand market access but also diversify our exports beyond ready-made garments to include promising sectors like ICT, light machinery, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, and processed food. Distinguished guests, for these economic opportunities to truly flourish, active participation from our business community is indispensable. While the government will continue to facilitate policies and highlight opportunities, it is now time for entrepreneurs and industry leaders to take this initiative. We have seen how some countries like India and China have successfully engaged with Africa by investing in critical sectors and forging robust commercial ties. Encouragingly, recent seminars organized by FBCCI and DCCI on the economic opportunities in Africa and their willingness to sign cooperation MOUs with their counterparts in African countries are promising steps forward to deeper economic interactions. On the international stage, Bangladesh collaborates with African countries through multiple platforms, whether working together at the United Nations on issues concerning least developed countries, engaging within the OIC and the D8 frameworks, or joining forces in groups like G77 and CBF to address climate changes. Our partnership is built on common interests and shared challenges. The solidarity shown by nations such as the Gambia on issues like the Rohingya crisis further underscores the importance of our partnerships with Africa. However, challenges persist in Africa-Bangladesh relations, and one of that is illegal migration, particularly that taking place is the western part of Mediterranean Sea. Not only endangers lives but also tarnishes our global standing and bilateral ties. Connectivity issues further impede trade, economic exchange, and people-to-people contact between Bangladesh and African countries. Only 2 direct flights are currently operating from Bangladesh, from Dhaka. One is to Addis Ababa and other is to Cairo. And we should now look forward to expand the connectivity air link with the African nations. And we also currently Ministry of Foreign Affairs is pursuing for visa-free arrangement with more African countries. We must also strengthen educational and cultural ties to further bolster these connections. Furthermore, to build successful partnerships, we must carefully identify the right African counterparts by evaluating factors such as political stability, infrastructure readiness, human capital, and technological advancement. Dear audience, to conclude, it is undeniable that Bangladesh-Africa relationship have yet to reach their full potential. It is essential that government initiative be complemented by proactive engagement from the business community, policy experts, and think tanks. I am confident that this book will inspire us to reimagine our engagement with Africa, serving as a vital resource for all stakeholders committed to forging a future of mutual growth and shared prosperity. Thank you all. Thanks.
I thank Mr. A.F.M. Zahidul Islam, Director General at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and a contributor also for this volume. I think two things I will mention. I think at the diplomatic level, the relationship is now, I would say, growing. At the Foreign Service Academy, every year we get, for the last few years, participants from different African countries. I think these are like the pillars who will be really working at the ground. And it's my hope that they will help us to bring the two nations together, or the countries in Africa and Bangladesh together, and remain as our friends forever. Because I recall wherever we have worked, the honorable advisor, myself, we are trained in France. And still today, we have our relationship with our teachers, our friends, and so on and so forth. So wherever we spend time, we leave a part of our soul there. So our African friends who are here, spend time here, perhaps they will remain as the pillar of the relationship between these two African countries and Bangladesh for the future. And I think what Zahid has mentioned is very important to note, that the business community has to really engage here. And this is particularly important because Africa is now the largest FTA in the world, free trade area, African Continental Free Trade Area. So any access to Africa means the market, we are getting the 54 countries market. So this is an opportunity, huge opportunity, but of course there are challenges. But I think the entrepreneurship or the entrepreneurial spirit that Bangladeshi business community has, they can explore that. And indeed, I would also mention here my personal experience. In Los Angeles, Las Vegas, 2008, I went to it was a garments global affair. And I met a Bangladeshi student Bangladeshi person at an Ethiopian stall. I asked him, how come you are in the Ethiopian stall? He said, we have a factory in Ethiopia. And we have also a factory in Mauritius, Bangladeshi investment. We have investment in also Lesotho. So Bangladeshis are going to Africa. And I would like to mention here that our African friends can get us as also investor partners, not only for our bilateral relationship, but also the global market, because Africa has the AGOA facilities, duty-free market facilities at the United States. And that facility could also be availed of by both the African countries and Bangladesh. And I'm sure we know that 2 years back, Square Bangladesh factory, one of the leading pharmaceutical factory, they set up a plant in Kenya. So from there, they are now exporting to the United States. So we have a huge opportunity to explore together. Now, I think we have two more discussions here. Okay. So let me take this opportunity to now invite the distinguished discussants of the book. Dr. Munshi Suleiman, Professor and Research Director, BRAC Institute of Governance and Development. May I invite him to just discuss briefly on the book, and you have 15, 20 minutes. Thank you.
I'll try to make it 10 minutes.
Okay, that's great.
Good morning. Distinguished guests, all protocols observed. This is one time-saving phrase I have picked up from my time in Uganda. So I am supposed to be discussing the book. I must admit, I did receive the book. I read a couple of chapters, and the rest I kind of skimmed through or asked ChatGPT to sort of summarize for me. So bear with me that it's not a sort of thorough discussion of the whole book. However, the thoughts that I will share is a bit of a reflection of me reading the book in light with my about 10 years of lived experience in East Africa mostly. So I've had good times in Uganda, Kenya, Somalia, and working in several other countries with a couple of NGOs, BRAC and Save the Children. And I'll try to make 2 or maybe 3 points if I have the time. So the first point is about timing. I think the book has got it right about the timing, which is we are probably late in the game. We are talking about looking into Africa, where others have been looking into for, like from the north or the west for centuries, or India, China, they have been looking into Africa for a very long time. And the book sort of recognizes those, that we need to think differently. That it shouldn't be, well, India has been there to do businesses. In remote villages you go, you see the biggest store that you can find, it's probably owned by someone from India. China has come in with big investments, and we know what their interests are. Turkey has been sort of coming up with their strategies too. Now, my second point is my real reflection, where I feel if it is so economy oriented, if we're just looking at this is the population, 1 trillion GDP, we need trade. We're just another seller coming to Africa. Hey, do you want to trade with us? They have enough people coming and trading with them. So I think there is so I won't call it a limitation of the book, but one of the things that I found missing or we not discussed enough is about the culture. So it should not be all about economy. We are looking into Africa, but we also need to think of when I'm looking at someone, how are they looking at me? How do they see my view? So I'm not a career diplomat, but I know when I'm sort of looking at someone and I want that person to look at me, I need to understand what that person wants. Do Africa want another seller? Maybe they do, I don't know. That's something we need to think about in a sort of relationship. If it's going to be trade relationship, trade focus, let it be, but let's find out what they want. So I would say one missing part is what Africa think of us. And if you think about it, you will find lots of narratives of how Africa think of us. And maybe on my third point, I'll mention a couple of those. Just to carry on a little bit more on the second point, I think a very big area that we can learn from Africa is culture. And the culture, by culture, I don't mean just music, arts. It's culture of how we talk every day with each other. It's a culture of being humble. It's a culture of being satisfied with each other. When I come back to Bangladesh from Africa, I feel like I'm come from a happy place to a place where everybody's rushing. Like you get out of the airport and any African friend will probably agree with me, like what sort of uncivilized country it is. They don't know how to drive their car and look at the honking, the amount of honking. We need to learn civilization from Africa. That's the type of culture I'm talking about. We have to go back to our roots. We all started from there. It's the cradle of Homo sapiens. So we need to go back there to learn our culture. So that's my sort of real big point I would really push for. If we can think about changing our mindset. If you ask a typical Bangladeshi, like, what do you think of Africa? Well, let's say Uganda. Oh, well, maybe it's Idi Amin. or you think of any other place, it's all either war, all the sort of negativities. But Uganda is the most beautiful country that I've seen. It's the greenest. The first time I landed, I felt like, oh my God, I call Bangladesh green. We should come and see here what green means. Yeah. So I think there is a big mindset change that is needed. There are a couple of chapters that talk about education, ICT, etc. We need that from early on. We need our students, maybe international relations who are studying that, they need to go and maybe spend a semester in one of the African countries and learn from the culture from when they're learning. Yeah, it's in the formative age that is needed. On the bureaucracy even, like in Uganda, I had to put in money in this National Social Security Fund. And every time I left the country and my work permit ended, I had to take the money out. And the NSSF office, I'm yet to find a Bangladeshi service that matches even remotely to the type of quality of service I received from NSSF. I have returned. I'm worried about my hard saving dollars. I sent an email. I get the reply. The money for the fact, after I received, was stuck because of Bangladesh Bank and the bank here, not because of Uganda. So that sort of culture, we need to learn more. Finally, if the chair allows me just one more minute, I think when we think about how people see us, you will find lots of narratives. There are roads that are named called Bangla Road. Why? Because our peacekeepers, they were there, they did rehabilitation, reconstruction, they created the road, and then by name, the people call it Bangla Road because that's what they see. The Bangla guys created this road. So that's a goodwill. We have investment in the form of pharmaceuticals that makes the medicine cheaper. So we need to think about not just what we want. We may want to sell a lot of things, but we need to think about what they want better. That only then we will have a meaningful relationship. And there's probably a lot more of inner looking than just looking outside. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think Professor Dr. Munshi Suleiman has hit on something very serious. We need to think about it. He's talking about a society, understanding a society. That's very important. Listening to what people talk, listening to what they are looking at or trying to understand what they think. And in technical terms, we call it in negotiations empathetic attention and empathetic listening. So what he's saying, I hear from my son who lives in Africa. And when he says that African traffic is 10 times, 15 times better than Bangladeshi traffic, I feel ashamed of myself. I mean, what we have done. So I think there are a lot of things that we can learn. And Rwanda, a country that is known for genocide, is the fastest growing economy in almost whole of the developing world, 8% growth rate. So Africa has many things that we can learn, we can interact with, and we can benefit. And I thank Professor Dr. Munshi Suleiman for bringing out something which perhaps this book could enrich itself down the line, and the scholars can also contribute for that or contribute towards that. Now, next discussant would be Dr. Marufa Akhtar, Associate Professor and Head of Department of Global Studies and Governance, Independent University. Dr. Marufa Akhtar, 10 minutes.
Good afternoon. Honorable Chief Guest, Honorable Foreign Advisor, Chair of the session, Chairman BIISS and Director General BIISS, and distinguished guests and students and journalists, good afternoon. I am truly honored to be part of this session, and I've been asked to review this book and entrusting me with this responsibility of commentary on this book, which I will try to do my justice to it. I have neither lived in Africa or even have an expertise on African studies, but my comment will be from the academic point of view and how I see the book and the importance of this book for researcher and for also the students in IR and global studies. Let me start with the title of the book. Look Africa, Exploring New Horizons for Bangladesh. Immediately it signals a kind of a paradigm shift in how Bangladesh views its global engagement. I think some of the panelists already identified that. Traditionally, Bangladesh's foreign policy has focused on regional partnership and relations with South Asia, Middle East, and Western power. But I would congratulate BISS to take this challenge up and taking these issues for the first time. I think this is a kind of a book I was looking for when I was offering a course in African studies in my department and also the genocide studies in my department. I was really looking for a textbook which can be given to the student to give a kind of a comprehensive idea about what is happening in the region, which we can learn. I think from that point of view, this is a great initiative and it must be just a start. And I'm sure it can grow a lot more interest among the young researchers. Also, this title suggests us a proactive search for new horizon, which it's truly something implying that Africa is not merely a distant or exotic other, but a kind of a dynamic region ripe for collaboration. In academic circles, this approach is valued for its potential to challenge conventional narratives and will contribute to the growing discourse on South-South cooperation. The title also encapsulates a call of action, right? So we need to immediately, maybe it is not late yet, maybe this is the right time to even look for Africa and other region, maybe South America or Latin America, we can look for. So Bangladesh it tells you that the Bangladesh ambition to explore a kind of harness the multifaceted opportunities for Africa presents to us, and it suggests and encourage kind of a policymakers, practitioners to broaden their horizon and consider the continent's untapped economic, political, and cultural potential. Let's few words about the book content. Now I will be focusing on the content of the book. So the book is interestingly covered like 13 chapters, which opens kind of a discussions on ranges of issues. It started from economic diplomacy, trade, diversification, geopolitical strategy, to cultural exchange, innovation, migration, sustainable development. And this book's uniqueness is that it kind of provides a comprehensive framework for strengthening the bilateral and multilateral engagement between Africa and Bangladesh, which I miss here as a content. Maybe a chapter on women's empowerment would be interesting because Africa's growing women's empowerment and the growth is huge. Although we share some kind of a cultural similarities here, but something that we should learn how to deal with this. The contributors of the book, if I look, this book is a kind of attempt to blend academic scholars with experienced policymakers. So we can see kind of a hybrid approach that enriches the book considerably, and contributors from a unique mix of seasoned academics, experienced policymakers, and high-level practitioners. So therefore, I also find like this is a kind of a great attempt to give a comprehensive look of the book. Second point would be methodology. Most chapters of the book are driven by kind of a narrative or case study approaches, with a few exceptions like chapter 7 and 8, which adopt kind of a clear mixed method research, which is great because most chapters here rely heavily on narrative analysis case studies. Where these chapters offer kind of a robust conceptual analysis, some actually kind of a lack, which I found the primary data. So there are some primary data gaps, and which is very important because because when you are looking, we are employing a case study analysis focusing on individual Bangladesh and Africa initiative. You need some kind of a data to back by your analysis to make it generalizable for the other context. So this is a kind of a comments for the academic point of view. But even having said that, this book attempted to make a kind of a strong academic contribution by exploring an under-researched dimension of South-South cooperation. It provides a rich case study on how Bangladesh can actually diversify its foreign policy and economic engagement, and also offering a kind of a fresh insights into the global diplomacy. Now I would like to focus on the key messages that this book is trying to give and which I found very intriguing and that we should think of and reflect when we are conducting research in future context. First, this book tried to give a kind of a historical root and try to give us a kind of a essence on a shared struggle, right? So there are common ground between Bangladesh and Africa countries on key challenges like climate change, resource scarcity, access to education. So this indicates a kind of a potential for deeper ties and mutual support between geographically distant yet similarly unchallenged region. Also, it talks about untapped economic potential, which I'm not going to talk because I think it has been covered a lot. Third point was that innovative security engagement. So Bangladesh's active role in UN peacekeeping and defense diplomacy in Africa not only enhances its global standing, but also offers a unique model of non-traditional security cooperation that could reshape regional stability. Finally, it is also discussed, but I would like to highlight again the involvement of business leaders, former diplomats, and policymakers who are the contributor to this book. It kind of highlights the growing importance of non-state actors in shaping international relations. This expands the narrative beyond state-based diplomacy, raising kind of a thought-provoking questions about the evolving power dynamics and influence of non-state actors, stakeholders on intergovernmental and global diplomatic effort. Finally, the significance of this book for the young researcher or students in IR and global studies. I think for students in IR and global studies, this work offers a kind of valuable insight into alternative paradigms of international cooperation and emphasizing economic, political, cultural exchanges and kind of a synergies between two regions. It is also kind of a fostering global understanding of global governance challenges that this two region offers. So for me, the key messages that this book and these sessions and discussions, this audience could take away, that of course we have early diplomatic relations with African countries after independence, which were rooted in kind of a shared anti-colonial struggles. But these connections between solidarity and foreign policy direction seems worth pondering. And it's a compelling part of Bangladesh's international relations strategy, which requires more academic attentions and practical considerations. I stop here. I hope I try to cover key points and messages that this book offers to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maruf Akhtar. Two key points that you have highlighted, I cannot stop not mentioning. One is that the non-state actors' role in promoting diplomatic relationship. And you are absolutely correct that our peacekeeping efforts in various countries in Africa and elsewhere was, I would say, a very important element in our relationship, which we couldn't really follow up or build upon. So that is, and you have mentioned about one country, or the earlier one has mentioned about one country, but there is, Bangla is a second language in Sierra Leone. I have been to East Timor. The small kids were shouting about Bangla, Bangla. They could only speak Bangla with the small flags. So this is a way of reaching out to the larger social context and build up or I would say, sow the seeds of future relationship. And I think this book, as you have rightly pointed out, this could be an area to look at further, and maybe one could build up on that. And another area that you have mentioned, uh, non-traditional security role that Bangladesh can use as a soft power. Because I know hard power, we talk about hard power. But for Bangladeshis, I used to cut jokes with my American friends. I used to tell them, look, you go with a tank and they just run away. We go and approach the people walking. So people come to us and talk to us. So that's why Bangladesh is required in international peacekeeping, because we can engage with the people in the society. But you can't. And the Americans they agreed. They said, yes, very much. So I think these are some of the areas we can build up non-traditional way of looking at building up the relationship and enhancing or promoting our interest. And at the same time, the civil society actors can also be a part of the international relations that various countries are exploring. Bangladesh could also be a helpful partner. Solidarity, yes, we work at the United Nations, General Assembly, I mean, G77, LDC, NAM. African bloc is the largest bloc at the United Nations. So no country can expect to achieve anything without the contribution or support of the African countries. So Bangladesh works very closely with our African friends at the multilateral level. And I believe that if we also want to promote our interest, which we have done in many times earlier, we can get support from our African friend, particularly in the group of G77 and China, NAM, LDC. But well, I mean, these are some of the instances where we can leverage or multiply, amplify our individual efforts at a global level to promote our shared or collective interest. Wonderful discussion, I should say, from both the professors on the book. And now I think we'll go into the panel discussion, but launching. Yes, I'm waiting for the book launch. Yes, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the main event of today's seminar. Time for unveiling the cover of the book, Look Africa, Exploring New Horizons for Bangladesh. For this event, I'll kindly request the authors and the editorial team of the book to join us at this stage. Sir, please. Sir, please. Sir, ready? I will. May I now request the distinguished authors and editorial team and all of them in the stage to do the honors and unveil the book, please. Sir, please. I will now kindly request the editorial team to leave the stage, and the authors of the book can have a picture with the. We'll first have a picture with the authors of the book. Now I'll request the authors of the book to kindly be seated, and I'll request the editors of the book to kindly join us at the stage for a photo. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the book launching event. Sir, over to you.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, yeah, well try. Thank you. So we are going to the panel discussion segment with the authors. Let me mention the name of the authors, and they can come for 2 minutes each if they want. General Iftekhar Anis has already made his remarks, so I think we will just skip him. Then Mashfi Binte Shams, she has written a piece on building bridges, diplomatic ties with African countries. Mashfi, would you like to say a few words? Whatever. তুমি বসে বলতে পারো, if you like. Microphone up. So you can.
Thank you, sir. I think it will save time. So, distinguished chair, chief guest, and BISS DG and chairman, and distinguished guests. Assalamu alaikum, good morning. First of all, I would like to congratulate BISS for this very innovative and remarkable initiative and asking me to be a part of this journey. This journey began when I was Secretary East in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Africa Wing was one of the wings that I was overseeing. The BIS has asked me to present a paper at the seminar they were organizing on Africa. So it was a very good initiative even at that time, the seminar, and then eventually it turned into this book. So while I was writing this book, this chapter, I found that the African countries were one of the first countries to recognize independent and sovereign Bangladesh. And there was a great solidarity between the countries of Africa and Bangladesh at that time because of the common issues, our views on global issues like colonialism and racialism, our solidarity with South Africa, apartheid, and one of the first missions that we opened immediately afterwards was in Africa, as mentioned by DG Zahid. Over the years, because of our competing challenges and our own struggles to take our path forward, somehow we overlooked our relationship with Africa. Of course, we collaborated in the global multilateral fora like the UN, the OIC, the Commonwealth, and these sort of places. But the bilateral focus was shifting. I'm very happy to note that in the last 10, 15 years, or slightly more than that, we have refocused our attention towards Africa. And a number of missions have been opened, and the last being the one in Mauritius and Nigeria. But of course, that is not nearly enough. In Africa, we need to have at least, in my mind, at least 5 to 8 more missions to be properly represented. In fact, I would like to quote one of our friendly countries' ambassadors who was saying that they have open missions in every African country because when they went to seek votes for their Security Council, I think, candidature, that country said, you're seeking my vote, but you don't even have a mission in Africa, in my country. So I know it's not possible for us to have 54 missions there, but at least 5 to 8 missions would be very helpful. And over the years, Bangladesh has established the regular diplomatic foreign office consultations, joint commissions with a number of African countries. We have signed many MOUs and agreements, which are the building blocks of diplomatic relations. Here I would like to mention that the Foreign Service Academy that our chair was mentioning has started since 2023. We have started offering courses to the diplomats from friendly countries, and very happily we have welcomed diplomats from African countries. So I'm ending now. And as it has been mentioned that what will Africa look when they see us? And I would like to mention here that there is a new scramble for Africa going on, but Bangladesh doesn't want to be a part of that scramble. We want to establish diplomatic relations based on mutual benefit and cooperation, and something that will we can learn from Africa and they can also learn from us. And I hope that this book will not be the only one, and this will follow with a volume 2. Thank you all. That's from my side.
Thank you, Ambassador Mashfebin Deschamps. Now I go to Dr. Nilaranjan Biswas and Mr. Himel Rahman. 2 minutes. Their theme was connecting continents, social and cultural cooperation between Bangladesh and Africa.
Thank you so much, sir. It's a great honor, and I'm talking on behalf of both of us, Mr. Himel Rahman, my co-author. He has done a great job indeed. And I think in some of the very fascinating discussions that we have heard from the discussants, and that's the task of the editorial panel to defend and argue. But I agree what Dr. Munshi Sulaiman has said, that cultural cooperation is very important, and knowing cultural aspects. I think that was one of the tasks that we have tried to address in our chapter. And we found that we have cultural ties way before the pre-colonial times, and particularly with the travel from Ibn Battuta, one of the major events that we traced in the literature is very important from our perspective. And also the diplomatic relations with the present-day Kenya in the 15th century is also very important. So travel population movement has always triggered cultural cooperation and cultural affinities between the continents. But is that relevant to the contemporary days is something that we need to explore. We tried to do so a little bit. One important thing that we identified that, we have both of the continents, we in South Asia and Africa as a continent with its own diversity is perhaps not be convenient for us to look at it from a very colonial perspective. That makes us more difficult. So decolonizing the cultural evolving nature of the culture of the African continent as a diversified country, and also Bangladesh's potential to tap with that is something that we need to understand. So knowing individual and person is very important. At the same time, we want to explore more opportunities in the economy and the security sector. So, for example, we have had from 80s footballers coming to Bangladesh, and we mentioned that in the chapters as well. And I remember when we were following Abhani Mohammedan in the Premier Leagues of football, we have players coming from different African countries, and recently we have one African player has actually taken the nationality and playing in the Bangladesh national team. This might be one anecdotal evidence, but this is very important that we move forward with that. I think one of the challenges that we found that we do not have our cultural products export to the African continents, and also we are not very familiar with the big film industries in the African continent. One is Nollywood from Nigeria, and there are others as well. So in the age of OTTs, in the age of this kind of platforms where mobile is the most important cultural media tool, I think we should not be far from enjoying the African cultural products. At the same time, we should also do this kind of diplomacy to send our cultural products with subtitles to the African continents to enhance relations. Peacekeeping has supported a lot, but there's a separate chapter on peacekeeping, so I'll not talk much. But I think one of the other important thing is that we also need to deconstruct the cultural conflict idea as well. So sometimes the mindset to many of us is there that the African conflict is very much influenced by African cultures are very much influenced by conflict. I think that is not the case. There are countries which have rebuilt themselves. There are excellent programs that has kind of rebuilt the state and the nation, and some of those countries have actually kind of evolved their culture, which was originally their culture, not the colonial one. I think we need to also understand that in enhancing our cooperation with those countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Nilaranjan Biswas, who spoke also on behalf of Mr. Himel Rahman. Now, Dr. Moshoor Riaz is not present here. I think Mr. Rahul would like to speak on his behalf.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Rahul, you have the
Thank you.
floor.
I will
And
give you
the
I will-
subject theme was expanding Bangladesh's trade and investment horizon, opportunities emerging from Africa. Yes.
Thank you, sir. I will give you the brief overview of this chapter on behalf of the main authors, Dr. Moshoor Riaz. So Africa has a 1.4 billion people, including 54 nations, which is emerging as a global economic or business hub. So Bangladesh is also a promising trade and investment destination due to its population, large population, and vast natural resources, and due to its fertile land. Recently, Bangladesh export to Africa surged almost 6 times within the 2 years, from 300 billion to 1.8 billion, which is indicating that we have more untapped opportunities to enhancing our trade and investment in the African region. The most exporting product in the African region is RMG, leather, jute products, agricultural products, and seafood, and also pharmaceuticals, and tree and ceramics products is also the key exporting products. And key exporting nations would be the South Africa, Morocco, Egypt, and Kenya. And Bangladesh is currently exporting 29 countries in the Africa region. And this chapter also highlights some sectoral opportunities, untapped opportunities that offer Africa to Bangladesh in terms of the sector, like ready-made garments, RMG. We have a leader of one of the world third largest RMG exporter in Bangladesh. So we have some untapped opportunity to export in Africa region, and there are pharmaceutical sector. This also offers export potential because Africa almost 75% import reliance in terms of pharmaceuticals. And there is also a expanding sector like technology and digital services. Africa is going through its digital revolution, and Bangladesh, from other side, Bangladesh is currently second largest freelancer pool. So there is a key opportunity to invest in IT-enabled services like BPO and the digital transformation services. To expanding this horizon, there are some challenges exist, like complex and unpredictable regulation. Doing business in Africa requires navigating difficult frameworks, which may delay in investment facilities or also the business procedures. And there are some other challenges like limited diplomatic and business networks. Unlike China and India, Bangladesh does not have a strong institutional presence in Africa. Making trade negotiations and investment facilitation is more difficult because of that. And another issues is financing and investment risk. Access to capital for African expansions remains a challenges. In order to mitigate these challenges, this chapter also provides some strategic recommendation, overarching recommendation like expand trade missions, and then strengthening diplomatic and bilateral ties. So Bangladesh need more trade agreements and economic and business council or associations over the Africa, and improve trade facilitation. Bangladesh is the private sector driven economy. Almost 80% of the economy is driven by private sector. So encourage private sector to invest in Africa. In order to, but there is an issue to invest in Africa. There is a risk, high risk is there. So private sector need to calculate the risk in Africa. Just China, India, and Turkey, what they have done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Rahul. And now we are going on the same subject almost on the economic side, doing business in Africa from investors' perspective. Shams Mahmood would speak for 2 minutes.
Yes. Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Shams Mahmood. I'm the former president of Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry, currently the president of Thai Chamber, and most importantly, I'm the honorary consul of Ethiopia to Bangladesh for the last 14 years.
And I came back to Bangladesh as an African because it put me on the ground. It put my feet on the ground, and it teach me how to be a human being first before business. I want to share two stories because that has a connection with the way they think about business. First of all, Dr. Tedros, who's the head of WHO at the moment, he was a foreign minister when he appointed me. I was 32 years old when I was appointed the honorary consul, so I was very young. So for me, it was also a learning curve. He was kind enough to invite me to his office one day, and he made me sit. And we were talking about how to bring an investment from Bangladesh, especially on that. And he told me that one of the things about Bangladesh is that in Africa, they're held in high esteem, highly regarded, especially for the peacekeeping mission. But historically, for the last 500 years, we do have a connection with Africa, especially Ethiopia, because the surname Hafsi and Siddis, these two were the families, the descendants of these two surnames, they used to be mercenaries, mainly from Abyssinia, who came to the Mughal Empire, and they rose to the ranks of generals. And Alauddin Bakhtiar Khilji and all these people were from Ethiopian descent. So we do have a subcontinent, and Africa has a very, especially Abyssinia, have historical connections. And so he explained that to me, which I did not know. And then he talked about the War of 71, because that was something Ethiopia especially followed, because they also went through an armed struggle. So he had, Dr. Tedros had Chinese investors coming. He told me, sit beside me and just watch. So there were 8 companies, but 2 of them one of them started the negotiation. They were discussing, and one of the points the company raised was, what is the minimum wage in Africa? Sorry, in Ethiopia. And he said, like, this is the minimum wage. And they had the discussion, and then he left, and he made a cross. And then I said, what did you make a cross there? He said, I will explain later. Then another company came. They did a discussion about Ethiopian Airlines giving them preferential status. They would reduce the rates for air freight to Europe. And towards the end of the discussion, the owner of the company asked him to give yearly 4 business class tickets to his family so they can visit Ethiopia. And he made a cross. And after they left, I asked him, like, what did you make the cross? Asked him. And he said, number one, when the first company talked about minimum wage, it reminded me of exploitation. He should have asked what was a living wage. So that was the first impression that I got was negative. And I don't want people coming to my country who thinks like that, number one. Number two, the person who asked for business class tickets, he's saying he will invest $10 million and he cannot afford 4 business class tickets twice a year. So I don't trust these sort of investors. So they go about things in a very rational way. And one of the things, there are a lot of companies from Bangladesh who are working, especially in Ethiopia and in Africa. They mainly work in IT services and even dredging, river dredging. There are some companies who give design solutions. But the problem with Ethiopia, when you look from the private sector perspective, the data you will not get regarding Africa, because most of these businesses are operating from Dubai or Singapore, where the transaction is being made from, because one of the key weaknesses in Africa is the financial sector. They don't have back-to-back LC modality, and sometimes there's a shortage of hard currency. So the profits are kept outside, and only the operational costs are sent there. So there is significant trade between Bangladesh and Ethiopia happening, but it will not be reflected on the balance sheet. And this is something we need to work on. There should be openness. And the other thing is, one of the key things that the Chinese did, which for me also was a learning curve, was when the Chinese invest, they don't just the garments factory doesn't go and invest, or the textile mill doesn't go and invest. What they do is they take 3 components: a spinning mill, a fabric producing mill, and a garments. Together, they do the entire chain, and then they go and invest. And then they also have, they usually tag up a financing company with those 3 companies. So it is a whole solution. When it goes there, they work in that way, in a very structured manner. And lastly, I just want to say that we talk about investing in Africa. Investment requires a lot of capital. And we don't see, as business people in Bangladesh, in the coming, I think, like 5 years, the reserves that we have will be, we need to use it. So, but the low-hanging fruit are the service industry. One of the examples is Jollibee. It is a franchise. It is a fast food franchise from the Philippines. They sell fried chicken, but it is the highest export of the Philippines across the world in the form of services. So we have a lot of good brands in Bangladesh, like even for coffee, Northern Coffee. Give them the opportunity to go to Africa and set up a small shop there, or outsourcing companies, accounting firms who have international, because we make software which is international standard, and that is something they need there. So these are very low-hanging fruits. We should concentrate more on that. That will also give the scope for SMEs to become international players and give them the, the opportunity to go global and also scale up. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Shams Mahmood. I think very insightful comments you made, but we must be conscious of the time. 2 minutes for each one of the discussions here. Mr. Nahian Reza Sabriel will join us online. So his chapter was on the 4th Industrial Revolution and Digital Market in Africa, harnessing opportunities for collaboration. So, Mr. Nahian, you have 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, sir. Starting my summarization with my heartfelt gratitude to BEAS, Honorable Chief Guest Sir, Director General Sir, everyone involved with the book, my co-author, editors, and everybody else. So what we tried to bring out in this chapter was that we wanted to figure out through a mixed method approach that how the trajectories are currently in the digital market and from where we can start the next steps. There were drivers and opportunities and challenges, everything mentioned in the chapter, which I'm not repeating. But what I want to focus on is that the two focus that we made in the chapter, one is youth and another one is public. We can see in the digital market that the current focus is being on youth-centric and people-centric policymaking. So when we talk about that, we also think that the conventional wisdom kind of pushes us to think that artificial intelligence, generative AI, or Internet of Things, these are basically about satellite or quantum technologies, but Bangladesh-Africa relations can show us another way through bringing artificial intelligence and agriculture together. And in that case, we can also bring youth in the frame or the picture. For example, when we talk about precision agriculture, when we talk about virtual agronomy, these are all part of agricultural and virtual collaborations together, which is already happening in a lot of places. And I loved some ideas that we got, like, for example, combination of on the acre and for the enterprise, which can lead us to the next steps. And in that case, if we can bring the youth in the picture, and if they start to include the artificial intelligence towards the next steps of agriculture, that can lead us to the next step. We can already see that Africa itself has 65 to 70% of its labor force in the agriculture, and we cannot stress enough about Bangladesh and the importance of agriculture. So this is where we can start from. And that's why we also brought in the idea of digital public infrastructure instead of digital infrastructure, at the same time combining the youth force towards mobile internet penetration and combining everything else. And one thing I want to mention, which we stressed in the ending of the chapter, that because it's an asymmetric research, because on the one side we have a country and on the other side it's a large continent, each of the section can produce further researches. And that's what we want to lead towards, because we want the research to continue. So there should be more and more quantitative research, as one of the discussants has also mentioned, and we want more about predictive probabilities and other issues connected throughout the process, which can lead to further action and policies. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You have kept your time. Thank you, Nahian. And now we are going to hear Mohammad Rafid Abrar Mia. He has written on Bangladesh experience of SDG localization, approach, method, and learning from Sub-Saharan Africa or for Sub-Saharan Africa. Rafid?
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I am here talking on behalf of Professor Qazi Maruful Islam and myself, of course. So unlike other chapters, this chapter basically offers a method that Bangladesh has followed for last couple of years to localize its SDGs. So the core idea here is that we know that there are 169 targets within 17 goals of SDGs, and there are 54 countries in African continent, and priorities, necessities, and vulnerabilities for each of the countries will be different. Not necessarily all the SDGs goals and targets are equally important for each of the countries or even within the countries. With this philosophical underpinning, we followed a participatory rural appraisal method employed in 64 districts of Bangladesh to develop a SDG localization model starting in 2021. It took 3 years for both of us to complete this study, and through this chapter, we have made a generous effort that we are offering to the sub-Saharan African countries to expand their efforts to localize their SDGs through following this model that we have offered in this chapter, a very much step-to-step guideline that how to select the priorities, how to mention the priorities and most importantly, following a bottom-up approach. That being said, that how to engage the local people of different genders and different demographic locations. Through this chapter, we have tried to contextualize the necessities for the step-to-step model that can be implemented in different different countries of African continent, and also they can follow, they can contextualize wherever needed. I hope this will be a generous contribution from Bangladesh to the sub-Saharan African countries, and we would like to extend our help and knowledge in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rafid. And now, say the Rosanna Rashid is absent. We are going to, coming here, rather, I should say, Ambassador AFM Gausul Azam Sharkar. He has contributed a chapter, and his chapter's title is Bangladesh's Engagement in Africa, Opportunities, Approaches, and Options in Agri Fields and Beyond.
Thank you, sir. For the sake of saving time, I'm going directly to my comments. I'd like to start with the background of this article that I have contributed here. In fact, during 90s, when I was in our mission in Paris, suddenly I was thinking of the food security and the crisis that we were facing and have been facing. And then my thoughts and intuition, out of those, I actually wrote a book on innovative cultivation and trying to present three theories. One is how to expand the existing land surface for cultivation in the country. Second, how to maximize the utilization of sunlight. And third, how to preserve the flood water underground without affecting the cultivation above on the surface. And then actually my interest in the theme of agriculture, I mean the broader agriculture actually evolved. And then my diplomatic study and interaction with African friends revealed that how less we know about Africa. In fact, we were, even as diplomats, we were not much enlightened about this continent and its possibilities and prospects. So that provoked my further study in Africa and my conversations with African friends in my diplomatic career. And that, in fact, enormously helped me in understanding more of this very amazing, still less discovered continent. And then actually my work, and in fact, very extensive work in the framework of Commonwealth and OIC in the ministry, and later D8, actually gave me further information and further insights of this field and other fields. I mean, our economic engagement, prospect and opportunities of our economic engagement with Africa. And then I developed certain thoughts and certain models of cooperation. And I could realize that we are already late. While other countries, they have already engaged, particularly the larger countries, definitely the colonial masters, they were there. And actually there was deep dependency of the African nations on the colonial partners. But gradually that changed and other actors engaged in economic, diplomatic, military, and strategic terms in this very resourceful continent. So that actually, in fact, encouraged me to write a report, and I did that and sent it to the ministry, African wing There were several discussions virtual during the COVID period, but although there was engagement in those discussions by our business community, private sector, and civil service actors, but actually, in practical terms, we could not move. Then, while I came to this institution, BIISS, I came to know about this important initiative, the Look Africa book. And I thought that this is a very timely and appropriate initiative to take. And then when I saw that there was not much focus on broader agriculture and how to go in a practicable way about our economic engagement with African countries, then I contributed this article, and I thought this is the most practicable and simpler way of engaging with Africa to start with, and doing things together with our African friends actually can take us to further fields. And for those, I have suggested some models in a very sketchy manner. And I'm thinking of already I have presented a strategy paper to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs about how we can practically go forward. I will have further discussion with the present administration of the MFA in Bangladesh, and then we can discuss. And of course, the suggestion has come that we should go for second volume, second part, or even third part, and we should expand and continue our conversation with African friends and see how we can go forward. And we are already late, and we should hurry. And we should engage not only the civil servants, but also and the private sector, but also professionals of other fields, digital and that. So I think the article will speak for itself, and I should conclude here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador FM Gausul Azam Sarkar. New expertise, I would say, on the agricultural field. Welcome, and I hope that can be of great help to both sides. Now we have the next discussion, Sufia Khanum. She will be talking about the combating climate change together, the untapped potential between Bangladesh and Africa. And before I give you the floor, let me alert our friend from South Sudan, Brigadier Mohammad Shamim Kamal, will join. So he should be ready for the next slot within 2 minutes. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. First, I'd like to congratulate the editorial teams for giving me this opportunity to write something on combating climate change together. So I think in this chapter, I try to explore the shared climate vulnerabilities of Africa and Bangladesh, and the collaborative opportunities to enhance the climate resilience and advocate for equitable global policies. And we all know that the African countries and Bangladesh face the significant climate vulnerabilities, including the temperature rising, sea level rise, erratic weather phenomenon, so which threaten the agriculture, health, infrastructure, and public health. And we all know that limited resources and infrastructure coupled with the the low capability with our low capability exacerbate the challenges in adapting to climate change. Nonetheless, these vulnerabilities also present opportunities for collaboration, particularly in leveraging their resource potential to achieve sustainable development goals. So in this chapter, I try to explore the shared climate challenges and negotiation stances of African countries and Bangladesh, highlighting their alignment in the international platforms such as Group 77 and LDC Group. In the COP negotiation especially, it underscores the potential of mutual learning, particularly from the Bangladesh's expertise in disaster preparedness, river management, and climate resilient agriculture. So this study also identifies the barriers to climate action, including the corruption,
governance deficits, and inconsistent policy analysis, especially with the climate finance. So Africa's evolving diplomatic agency and Bangladesh's innovative adaptation strategies offer avenues for collective climate action and South-South cooperation. By fostering solidarity and knowledge exchange, both regions can strengthen their capacities to address the climate-related risks and advocate for equitable global climate change policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sylvia Khanum. Now we are going to South Sudan to hear from Brigadier General Mohammed Shamim Kamal, retired. So you have the floor, sir. 2 minutes, I hope we'll do for you. We are not hearing you. Unmute, please. No, not yet.
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, you are audible now.
So thank you very much, Honorable Chief Guest, distinguished chair, and respected audience. It's my distinct privilege to participate in this session, 8,000 miles away from hometown. I'll be requesting you to allow me 3-4 minutes more, because what we are discussing here today, I'm implementing on ground. So it will be my extreme privilege to speak the difficulties and how best we can engage in African soil. After on my retirement, I engaged in South Sudan with this project of to foster the bilateral interest in Bangladesh and South Sudan. And in this journal, the article I wrote, this is one of my chapters of PhD, how to connect the Bangladesh, South Sudan with the lens of the military diplomacy. So to be very honest, very big words are paraded always, but nothing is done on ground. So this is my shared experience in South Sudan. I started this business and the engagement, not being engaged. Basically, the philosophy of my business was the smuggle little Bangladesh in African soil. And I picked up the area, the East Africa. So I launched this enterprise in 2023. This is 2 years, and at the background, you can see my humble accommodation. I have already established, I have already branded the Bangladeshi items in South Sudan. I'll not talk much about the other countries, especially in South Sudan. It's still a virgin country. Here, we need 1.5 track diplomacy. Government to government issues are very difficult to implement here, I can tell you. We were with our tremendous effort during the last regime. We are about to sign 2 MOUs, especially large-scale agriculture and on-arrival visa. But they all were shelved. So I am very much interested to work that on just my own retirement, I came to South Sudan, and I have also started in Uganda and Kenya. Now, whenever we have looked for the big investors, the first question they came that what is the security and ROI, return of investment. So if everybody looks for it, it is not possible to get output from here. But the most important thing here in South Sudan, no other countries could make the breakthrough. So it is still virgin. And you'll be surprised to learn that internet business of South Sudan is 90% controlled by the Bangladeshi businessmen. So all of them are doing so brilliant work here, we cannot imagine. And they have done it their own accord. They did not get much support from the diplomatic mission in Ethiopia. So that was, even yesterday I met with the Honorable Defense Minister of South Sudan. He had been requesting me a couple of times that you please come and engage in the sectors, especially agriculture. I have land and documents of few square kilometers land, but I could not start. However, we have imported the items like electronics, ready-made garments. even medicine. And this is tremendous. No other competitor we have. Only thing we have to show courage and take the initiative. And especially, I mean, the entrepreneurship. Ryan Holiday says about the entrepreneurship, it is not copying. It is doing something which is not done before anyone.
Thank you.
So this is a tremendous opportunity as I am doing it, and I can may I request all the entrepreneurs and big businessmen to come over here, and still the engagement and investment, the environment in South Sudan is totally virgin. It is much more easier, much more profitable than other African countries. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Ms. Muhammad Tawhidul Islam and Rabia Akhtar Shathi, Bangladesh and Peacekeeping in Africa, exigency for a coordinated approach to meet 21st century challenges. 2 minutes again.
Thank you very much, sir. I believe 2 minutes is enough for me after this loaded discussion. Our chapter basically focused on how Bangladesh has ventured in peacekeeping missions in African countries. To me, I see Africa as a continent which has very rich culture, language, ethnicity, resource, and so many other potentials. But at the same time, the reality is that if we look into the data from the Uppsala Conflict Data Project, the current armed conflict, majority are located in African continent. Having said that, it does not mean that the whole continent is in conflict. That all we need to be very careful, because there are tussles, there are issues that happens in every continent. But when you talk about the importance of presence of the international peacekeepers mandated by the United Nations Security Council, in many occasions we have seen that United Nations relied on Bangladeshi peacekeepers. Our data was up to 2022, and we have seen up to 2022, there were 55 missions completed by Bangladeshi peacekeepers, including military, police, and observer missions. And out of them, more than half, 28 were in the African continent. But most important aspect is our focus was what challenges Bangladeshi peacekeepers face in the African continent and what needs to be focused on. Our very hard finding is that the very challenging unknown threats in the contemporary scenario in Africa. It is often thought that who are the parties? Some of the parties, the non-state actors perhaps, they are very powerful in fighting in big theaters in African countries. And in many occasions, we have seen that Bangladeshi peacekeepers have made supreme sacrifice, almost 175 plus sacrifice Bangladeshi peacekeepers made in the UN missions. And a large number, more than 250, were severely injured. But at the same time, why I say it's not the fault of the peacekeepers, but what I see is the lack of knowledge of the context is important aspect. And at the same time, one needs to look into how Bangladesh as a country undertake policies that examines the contextual challenges, because in many occasions we have seen other South Asian countries, they did not deploy their missions in very severe complex missions like in UNAMSIL in Mali, which are very complicated missions. Those are not traditional missions. So under those circumstances, we suggested that two interconnected policy suggestions. One is to look into the case very carefully and guide the peacekeepers before they land in the context, because it is not only the beep sorts training for 2 months or 6 months is adequate, but what is the political drivers, cultural context, that is very important. But at the same time, as one of the key discussants highlighted the aspect of culture, peacekeepers, they also highlight the aspect of winning the hearts and minds of the people. So that is where we also focus on how best peacekeepers could enter into the local social sphere to build good relations and partnerships. That was one of the last recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. Last one, I think Professor Delwar Hussain, concluding session, chapter, sorry, seeding a new future for Bangladesh-Africa partnership.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chief Guest. and also Honorable Chair of the session and distinguished guests and participants. Assalamu alaikum. Well, I mean, the chapter that I have written, I mean, it is more than a conclusion. I wanted to highlight one single point that you would find in the page 224, where actually I emphasize that the point that actually many speakers have also, stressed, that is, we need to change our mindset about Africa. That is, it is the high time. In fact, it is not only high time. Actually, we are losing because we lost opportunities to establish very strong relations between Bangladesh and Africa, maybe in the 90s and 2000s. So I think we are far behind. I mean, if we go to Africa, I visited 2 countries in Africa, and I found that how other countries, not to mention about China or the existing, powerful countries from Europe or USA. I mean, I could see even Pakistan has made a strong presence in Africa long before. I mean, so we are trying, but I think we are very late. So we need to act on that. That is what actually I wanted to emphasize in the chapter. But I congratulate the VISS for publishing the book, and which is very important. I consider maybe as an academic, maybe first of its kind, to put different issues in one single book, and which will be immensely beneficial for the students. And that's why I think it's a commendable job, and I am also very much honored to be part of this work. And at this present moment, out of 20 countries in the world, 11 of African countries are the fastest growing economies. It's a huge achievement. We know about historical connections between Bangladesh and Africa. We know about the geopolitical importance of these two parts. But economically, Africa is transforming so swiftly. And 11 countries of the fastest growing economies are located in Africa. It is a huge kind of, I think, compulsion for us to consider Africa in a big way. So I emphasize 4 brief points. One is I strongly plead to give strong policy thrust on Bangladesh-Africa relations, where actually I feel government has a lot to do, particularly Ministry of Foreign Affairs should think in a way that we would find new initiatives to boost and to strengthen our relations with Africa. Second, when we offer courses like in the Department of IR in Dhaka University, African Studies, we have a course like this. We don't find students. So it means that there is a lack of interest among the young people, interest among the students to know about Africa, to learn Africa. So that we need to, we have some responsibility. We need to generate interest among the young people, among the students. And third, I think we need to support research and publications. I strongly feel, with my experience of 30 years teaching, that we must go for publications and research on area studies, not only Bangladesh, Africa, Bangladesh, Middle East, Bangladesh, Latin America, Bangladesh, Central Asia. We don't find any textbook, any books. So, this is a general theme. So BISS could lead a project to write 10 books on Africa, focusing on in-country. So, from Nigeria to Rwanda. So we can have country-specific books, and that can be written by many authors. And we have huge a number of scholars in Bangladesh, heavily equipped, but they can contribute. So MUFA, BISS can take the initiative, and they can assign universities. University teachers can also contribute. So this is third point. And finally, I think we know that we have to emphasize G2G level of relations. That is important. But what we feel that relations between G2G have limitations. So we have to emphasize people-to-people connections, and for which actually Bangladesh needs to cultivate very strong linkage with African civil society. And I think African civil society is also robust, and they're growing in a strong way. They are actually going a little further, I think, because we cannot live in the illusion that we are not seeing the Africa of 70s or 80s. It's a new Africa. And also it's a new Bangladesh. So we need to change the attitudes, our attitude, and also that this will help to change attitude of African people about Bangladesh, that Bangladesh is not of 70s or 80s. It's a new Bangladesh. So there should be a mutual way of learning. So that is, I think, very important. So I thank again BISS to take this initiative and particularly having this launching seminar. I think it will give a lot of thought to think about the future of Africa and Bangladesh. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Delor Hossain. We have heard from the contributors to this volume. Now I have borrowed time from the Honorable Advisor, a few more minutes. We have friends from Africa. Would you like to make any comment on the discussion today or anything to add to what we have discussed? Any one of you from the African continent? Want to say something? Okay, fine. Please introduce yourself and then.
Yes, sir. Major.
Very briefly.
Yes, sir. Major Mashi, Nigeria, DSCSC. Sir, we have listened to the entire overview of the book. I will link my little comments to Dr. Muhsin Suleiman and Dr. Marufa Akhtar. I listened how they mentioned about peacekeeping operation and culture. What Africa needs right now in order to ensure global ties is security. Additionally, we need to preserve our culture. In order for us to preserve our culture, we need security. And aside peacekeeping operations, which Bangladesh is very much involved in and in the forefront, will there be in volume 2 of Look Africa, because I'm yet to read the one, will there be a volume 2 that will look into a separate defense pact that Bangladesh will offer outside peacekeeping operation, that an African continent will see that this nation wants to preserve my culture and I want to invest in this nation, give my resources to this country for the preservation of my culture? That this will be an interesting area that I would really like to see maybe in the volume 2 that Bangladesh will pursue. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Major. One more question we can take from the audience. Anybody is interested, feeling compelling to raise a question or make a comment? Okay, Salahuddin Bhai. Microphone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is Salahuddin Ahmed. I was member of Bangladesh Energy Regulatory Commission, and I'm now volunteer and training dementia patients, the caregivers of the dementia patients. I was also a broadcaster and I pretended to teach at some universities. In fact, I was very minutely listening to everyone, particularly when His Excellency Ambassador Kabir mentioned that whatever they did or do, they put part of their heart into the work they do. Or I thought the similar was the case of the contributors of this book, when they contributed to when they wrote on Africa and the possibilities of Bangladesh and the possibilities lying in relation with Africa. I was wondering, many of them were expecting the part 2 or part 3 to come out. And if it is possible to make a WhatsApp kind of group of the contributors and particularly the academia, the professionals present here, the business like Shams, they can be contributing, as lending their ideas. They can keep on lending their ideas, and which can be in fact be added while you are preparing to bring out part 2 or part 3 of the book. And I think this is such a wonderful, like Professor Professor Akhtar or Professor Munshi said about the culture, the women's empowerment and other things. So I think if we can, as a humble reader, we are allowed to add our comments time to time in that WhatsApp group, I think this can be a body of knowledge for you, humbly, as I said. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. With that, we have just concluded the discussion part. Now we'll come here to the table. Honorable Advisor for Foreign Affairs, His Excellency Ambassador Mohammad Tauhid Hussain will deliver his remarks. Yeah. Chief guest, Ambassador Tauhid Hussain, Honorable Advisor.
Distinguished Chair, Ambassador Humayun Kabir, Chairman BISS, Director General BISS, esteemed discussants, authors, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good, is it afternoon already? Yes. Very good afternoon to you all. I'm pleased to address you today at the launch of Look Africa, Exploring New Horizons for Bangladesh. This book, this event is not only a celebration of a remarkable publication, but also a reflection of our growing need to engage with Africa. It embodies our commitment to forging a dynamic and mutually beneficial partnership, one that is rooted in our shared history and collective aspirations for a prosperous future. In this month of February, I pay heartfelt tribute to the heroes and martyrs who have shaped our nation. We remember with deep reverence the courageous martyrs of the language movement and the selfless sacrifices of those who gave their lives during our liberation war. Their legacy forms the bedrock upon which our aspirations for peace, progress, and international solidarity are built. I honor the brave souls of the student people uprising in July-August 2024, whose call for a new Bangladesh defined by freedom, equality, justice, and dignity will continue to inspire us both at home and on the international stage. I'll not go into just deliver the speech that has been written by my colleagues for me, because much of it has already been discussed here. I'll just harp on a number of points. During the discussion, there has been a lot of laments about Bangladesh being late in engaging in Africa. I do not fully contribute to this idea. As has been already indicated, that I have had the distinct privilege of experiencing Africa firsthand. I was a High Commissioner to South Africa with concurrent accreditation to Angola, Namibia, Botswana, Mozambique, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, where I could not go for certain reasons, between 2012 and 14. And apart from those, I have also traveled to a lot of countries in Africa. In fact, I must be one of the most traveled Bangladeshis in Africa. I went to 23 countries in Africa, some of them on my personal account, some unofficial. Just if I say from my experience, we have engaged Africa from quite some time, not too late. We must also remember that we have limitations in our abilities and resources. For Africa, many of the countries in Africa, foreign engagements means the sector of mining. Bangladesh is not in mining sector, so one big area that is excluded from us. But even when there was apartheid in South Africa and our passports prohibited us from going there, professionals had actually gone into South Africa and had been working there. And when apartheid was gone, in fact, there are professionals already who had been working there for 15 years. So the engagement goes a little more, much back, towards the back than we normally think of this. IT software of Eswatini is actually developed, provided and maintained by a Bangladeshi firm. It's already more than 20 years that has been going on. there are also other things. For example, I have been to South Africa. I was in South Africa and I have traveled extensively within this country. Every remote location they call it, something like, or slums, has one Bangladeshi shop providing the general goods, day-to-day requirements. And in the north and east of Mozambique, I have traveled there a number of times. There are a lot of Bangladeshis who go into the remote villages to purchase agricultural products with small trucks. They bring it to the towns and sell it to the godowns or silos that are there. So it's not that Bangladeshis have not gone in. As I said, that one major area of exclusion is mining, which is for the other countries who have important engagements in mining, but we could not do that otherwise. In software, in retails, and even in some cases, I found some very enterprising people going into the north of Zambia to, in fact, for fish culture in the lakes, inside nets. They put the net inside in the waters of the lake, and then put some fish fries, feed them, and then sell them. North of Zambia, it's hundreds of kilometers from the capital. So they are doing this, and the nets are all made in Bangladesh, transported there and then put into the action. So I would say that we have been, in our limited capacities, been engaged with Africa. Big businesses have not gone in because they even, I would rather lament that in many of the countries, there are scope for much more export of our main product, which is the garments. But even that market, because the individual markets are small, so many of our large producers are not interested in going there. These are the areas that has to be explored. Agriculture definitely is an area where we can go in. The options are still open. And I was not aware that in South Sudan, the major producer of software was a Bangladeshi farm or Bangladeshi farms. So we have gone in our areas where we had the expertise. Software is one area where we can go in. We may not be one of the major producers or providers, but there are a lot of youngsters who are in this area, and they can find us the options. Sorry. It is transformation that is happening in Bangladesh and in Africa, which I think is important. We need to realize this, and we need to go into these areas where it can benefit both these sides. Culture was spoken. I learned Ubuntu. Ubuntu is culture of Southern Africa, which is the basic thing is that I am because we are. As an individual, I am nothing, but as a group, we are much bigger, much stronger. That's the spirit of Ubuntu. I think that is one thing we need to learn from Africa. That in spite of so much of diversity, there is some unity in Africa. Not only that they vote together, even the countries fighting each other vote together when the election comes. And as has been very aptly mentioned, that you cannot win any election without African support in the international system, because there are 55 or 56 votes and they all come together. So I think this comes from the Ubuntu, that they are together, and we need to learn this from them. We are not diverse like Africa, but much more disunited than Africa. I think I'll just stop very shortly. We are having the last horizon of opportunity, Africa. It's not an opportunity of exploitation, but of cooperation. Africa needs cooperation, and we can offer that cooperation to them in many areas, many expertise. We can have interactions. Uh, there is a gentleman who is running a huge cotton ginning plant in Sudan, near Port Sudan. Even the civil war doesn't affect him. He's doing a good business. And his cotton is imported by other countries and then exported to Bangladesh. We are a major cotton importer, you know it. These are areas where cooperation can come in. There is a problem of communication, there is a problem of transportation, but this can be overcome. I think these are the areas where we can make important advances. About this publication, I believe that this will really help dispel many of the myths and misunderstandings about Africa. Africa, the Westerners, when they came there, they called it a dark continent. They had come to, just put light there. But in saying so, what they did is exploit the continent and destroy many of the societies. Just I can mention that I have written a book on Africa, which perhaps will be published in next 2-3 days time in the book fair. But it has nothing to do with such research work. It's my experience there and what I saw and what I traveled a lot, and so it's not a travelogue, but I tried to depict the people of Africa and Bangladeshis in Africa. So it's an easy read. It's nothing to do with the research work like this. But I have seen that in Africa, the people are much more enlightened than we from outside believe. They are some of them write so well that I have not seen even in our newspapers such good articles written by our people. And the thoughts, the ideas are so brilliant. I think we need to tap each other. We have to learn from them, and we can also offer our expertise to them. I think there lies the future of Bangladesh-Africa relations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Advisor, for a very, I would say, insightful comments about Africa, your experience there, and also, and we are looking forward to seeing your book that would come, and I'm sure that would add more to our knowledge. Just give me 2 minutes, and then I will. No problem. I've been given a job to do, just to summarize, but I think the discussion was so deep and so wide. I'll not go into that. Let me highlight a few points from the discussion today. One thing that Honorable Advisor has added, and also it came during the discussion, the young generation in Bangladesh and in African continent are changing their lives. So the young generation would redefine our lives and perhaps our relations. So that is the hope that we have, and we keep that hope for the future. The second thing is I should congratulate the BIS for undertaking this excellent initiative. And as has been mentioned, this could work as a textbook. And in Bangladeshi, from a Bangladeshi perspective, I can tell you, when you go abroad, it's very difficult to get Bangladeshi books or books from Bangladesh. So this is an addition to the knowledge kitty to understand that Bangladeshis can think beyond themselves, and they can also contribute to the body of global knowledge. Third thing is, what about the future generation? Professor Delawar mentioned about that. I think it is important for us to not only make our younger generation interested to look at Africa from a different perspective, it is also important to invite the African students to come here. India is one of the largest African concentration in this region, African students concentration in this region. China is another. Bangladeshi education system can also be geared to catering to the needs of the African students. And that could be a kind of real human connection or human connectivity that we could build up for the future generation. it has been discussed. Government to government relationship is basic frame. It provides the framework of relationship, but also we must not underestimate the non-state actors can also play a very important role. If you look at the Bangladeshi economy, it's the private sector that is driving the Bangladeshi economy. If they can drive Bangladeshi economy here, they can also gainfully contribute to the economies of other side and vice versa. From the African continent, African countries, people can come here and they can build up the economy, business, connectivity, and so on and so forth. So that this would be very helpful. And the last point I should say is that the mindset has to change, and I'm very happy today to say that we are seeing a new mindset. We are, from Bangladeshi side, we are interested to know about Africa. That is something new, and I should compliment again, congratulate BEAS, all the contributors, the efforts, Chairman, DG, and others, those who have done the, contributed or led the process, to all of them for their excellent effort, very, I would say, very productive and intellectually oriented work. So they have done it. And I think this would be a real net contribution to the future generation and also for the future. Last thing, I should take the opportunity to sincerely express our gratitude to the advisor, Honorable Advisor for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Tauhid Hussain, for giving some time. We are already exceeded by 5 minutes, and he has been patient. And since I actually borrowed time from him, and I really appreciate, and then we are grateful for your support. And I hope that many of the issues that have come up, perhaps from the ministry, you can also look at that to facilitate the process of strengthening our relationship with African countries. Chairman, I should also thank the chairman and DG for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this very productive, enjoyable, and future-looking journey. And thank you all very much for patiently hearing and also giving your time and participating, the contributors, the commentators, those who have participated. I also thank all of them. I wish we had more time, but well, every good thing has to come to an end. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of the seminar. On behalf of BISS, I sincerely thank you all for joining us, and I invite you all to join us for